Hey everyone, we're back with another devlog for our 2D bullet hell MMO called Wyld Land. We're developing it with just 4 of us. Recently we finished our first beta test, so you can't play the game right now, but you can wishlist it on Steam. Last update, we talked about some of the more MMO focused content we were developing, and we put a poll in our Discord, which you should definitely go join by the way, to see which content you are all hyped for the most, and yeah, raids were the clear winner. So this update, we want to just talk about our plans for raids, and start talking a bit about how we are approaching raid design. In our last test, our hardest endgame content was Tier 20 Corrupted Dungeon. These contained the hardest bosses you could find, but a few players cleared this content, and we were pretty hyped about that. The issue with our T20 dungeons being the hardest content in the game is that you don't really play that much differently solo versus in a party. While it's cool to take down a boss with your friends, we really want content that makes players work together, really emphasizing that multiplayer part of MMO. This leads us to raids. Our vision for raids in Wyld Land is that they are endgame content where you need to work together to defeat bosses. We think at least 4 players should be needed to start raids, but maybe we'll design more raids in the future with different sized parties in mind. Bosses will still fire bullets, and you'll still need to gun them down, but now we'll add a layer of complex mechanics on top. If you've played other MMOs, then you know what we're talking about. Maybe you get a status effect that you need to step onto a special platform to cleanse, or else it explodes and damages your party members. Maybe ads will spawn, and you'll have to take them down in a specific order. Maybe one party will gain a shield around them, and you'll have to coordinate getting inside to protect against heavy AoE damage. These types of mechanics should have teams working together and form strategies rather than just shooting in a room while you're all together. But Wyld Land is still a bullet hell game, so we'll need to be careful when designing our encounters. Traditional MMOs have cooked up some pretty in-depth mechanics, so if we're going to have raids that do the same, we'll have to balance out what bullet patterns look like during that time. Our first raid is currently planned to be a fire-themed dungeon with 3 different bosses. We're working on their bullet patterns and new raid mechanics, but without knowing anything, what sort of attacks would you expect these 3 to have? It would be interesting to hear from the community about what comes to mind when you see their designs. What we haven't talked about yet is the dungeon itself. To access our raids, you have to take on some kind of attunement quest to gain access. Once you have access, the raid takes place inside a unique, non-procedural dungeon. We're also thinking about ways to make our raids more interesting with traps and puzzles, so we're hoping to use some of what we cook up there for our raid dungeon. As you progress through the dungeon, you'll face enemy groups, puzzles, traps, mini-bosses that all lead up to a big final encounter with the main boss for a raid. We're also still working on rewards. Raids are going to be where the rarest and best loot is held, so we're thinking about the balance on how raids should drop their rewards. More on that later when we figure it out. That's it for now. If the idea of raiding in a bullet hell MMO sounds fun to you, then go over to Steam and smash that wishlist button and join the Discord to keep up with what we're cooking. Also, let us know what you think of our plans for raids. We're still in the middle of the development on this content, and we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback before we finish up. We'll see you next time.